Gadgets change our world, but it's only a matter of time before the world changes around them and they become forgotten. So many technological wonders in our lives are here one minute, gone the next. The first story on today's list is a great example of this. I'm Mike with List 25, and here are 25 forgotten gadgets from the past. But before I get started, don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe, including that notification bell. It really helps out the channel. Thanks so much. But before we get started, today's video is sponsored by Fume. Evidently, I've been talking about my Fume so much that my buddy's girlfriend ordered one for him, which means I've hit that point where I'm unintentionally turning people into Fume people. And I can't say I'm mad about that. And if you're one of my older viewers and wondering, I'm still on the mango train. And if you're new here and wondering what that even means, Fume is this flavored air device I've been using for a while now. It's not like a vape or anything like that. It actually has no vapor and zero nicotine. It's just natural flavor you draw through like you're sipping something, without any of the unhealthy stuff. The mango flavor is almost like drinking a cold tropical smoothie on a hot day. My friend, on the other hand, has already gone full cinnamon hearts, which means we've officially become Fume flavor people. Yeah, you know how coffee people have opinions? I guess we're like that now. But that's kind of the point, right? This thing isn't trying to be flashy. It's just a solid, satisfying swap for habits you're trying to step away from without turning into a big deal. And hey, if you accidentally getting your friends into it too, don't say I didn't warn you. Use the code LIST at tryfume.com/list and they'll throw in a free Fume topper with the Journey Pack. Or just scan the QR code right there. Alright, now that I've turned into that guy, let's get back to today's list, huh? 25. Legacybox. Streaming and downloads? Pfft, forget it. Our first story is all about old school media and the forgotten gadgets that play them. We're going back to the days before Blu-rays and DVDs, when 16mm film, Super 8, and VHS were the formulas you recorded stuff on. They're very much a part of the 20th century, but a company called Legacybox has been bringing them into the 21st by digitizing them. You even have to mail the stuff physically, enhancing those retro vibes. If it's analog, Legacybox will take it, transferring old footage and images to the cloud. Plus, they can put your old content onto a USB or burn everything onto a disc. They've been around since 2009 and are still turning the old world digital today. 24. Lazybones. What you're looking at here is a TV icon. Not an icon you saw on screen, but an iconic 1950s gadget that changed the channel for you. Before 1950, you had to get up and push the buttons or twiddle the knobs yourself. Then, Lazybones arrived from the Zenith company and everything changed. This was a time before wireless, so the remote had to be connected to your set with a cord, which was reportedly 17 feet long. Luckily, customers only had to wait a few years for a cord-free remote, the Flashmatic, also from Zenith, which landed in 1955. 23. Pocket transistor radio. Transistors are components that basically produce big sounds from small gadgets. You may know them best from their use in transistor radios, which hit the market in 1954. The first commercially available transistor radio was the Regency TR-1, which did what previously seemed impossible, allowing you to carry your music around in your pocket. They may have been replaced by MP3 players and limitless storage, but people still have fond memories of those little gadgets that blasted out rock and roll, to the annoyance of parents and teachers everywhere. 22. R.O.B. by Nintendo. Nintendo has one gadget to thank for their success in the 80s, and that's R.O.B. Was R.O.B. or R.O.B. a funky little gadget, or was he just a plastic robot designed to make the classic NES console look good? Actually, he was both. He could respond to the game's Stack Up and Gyromite. You remember those? Oh, you don't? Never mind. The fact is, R.O.B. was able to participate in the gaming experience, like a gaming buddy. The game would use flashing lights to which R.O.B. would react with an optical sensor. The idea was to make the NES more toy-like and appealing to a market that had cooled on the whole video game scene. Nintendo's plan worked, though poor R.O.B. only lasted a few years before being disconnected. 21. ColecoVision. The ColecoVision games console hit shelves in 1982, and for gamers, this was a dream come true. It meant they could play iconic arcade games like Donkey Kong at home. Plus, they looked pretty similar to the coin-operated version. You could get all the fun of the arcade at home without a pocket full of quarters, or a line of kids breathing down your neck in sight. ColecoVision made an impact on console design, featuring a cool-looking joystick controller. Another notable fact was that they offered modules which you used to broaden your game playing experience. ColecoVision had a hit on their hands. However, the industry suffered a crash, and it was literally game over by 1985. Not that the Coleco company minded too much, as they were also responsible for one of the decade's most popular toys, Cabbage Patch Kids. 20. Nintendo Power Glove. Imagine a glove that you could wear that's also a game controller. Instead of spraining your wrist with a joystick, you could be more involved in the action, like your hand was the character in the game. Sounds good, doesn't it? And back in 1989, this sort of gadget was like something out of science fiction. Unfortunately, the Nintendo Power Glove didn't live up to expectations. It was awkward to use, it looked clunky, and cost approximately $200 in today's money. It did become part of cult movie history, though, featuring in the video game adventure flick The Wizard, which featured a young Christian Slater. 19. The Clapper. In the 80s, people were getting excited about remote-controlled devices. However, with our next gadget, they only had to clap their hands to activate stuff in their home. The Clapper enabled you to switch things on and off with a clap on, clap off motion. That also kind of became their whole advertising slogan, by the way. All very snappy, or clappy, but how effective was the Clapper? Made by Joseph Enterprises and based on a product from the 70s called the Great American Turn-On, I kid you not, it was released in 1985, where it got a round of applause from consumers. That must have been a very interesting room. Sure, if a car backfired outside your window, it could turn on TV. However, that was a small price to pay for this futuristic luxury. Damn it. 18. Portable dictation device. Voice notes on your smartphone make work and life in general a lot easier. However, there was an older gadget that helped you record your thoughts and ideas. Portable dictation devices became a must-have item in the 50s, though the idea went back to the late 19th century. Dictaphone was the first major player with its device, the Dictat. Bonus fact, Dictaphone was founded by telephone pioneer Alexander Graham Bell. TV fans know portable dictation devices best through characters such as Special Agent Dale Cooper in Twin Peaks. Note to self, do life stuff? 17. 8-track players. Between the 60s and the 80s, the height of musical excellence was the ability to listen to the same 8 tracks as many times as you wanted. The 8-track player developed a close connection with Ford, who installed it in their vehicles. 8-track players could be heard blasting tunes out of car windows around the world. All you needed to do was jam the cartridge into the slot and start bobbing your head and slapping that steering wheel. This is don't gift this. That's horrible. Unfortunately, the gadget wasn't perfect. It was liable to eat your tape, and the sound quality wasn't the best compared to cassettes. You could also rewind cassettes, a major convenience factor you didn't get with 8-tracks. The format proved entertaining, but flawed, and the music finally died during the 80s. I guess cassettes killed the 8-track star? It's terrible. 16. Disposable cameras. Take a picture and then throw the camera away? Disposable cameras are still on the market here in the 21st century, but their heyday was definitely a few decades ago. The gadget wasn't thrown away as such, they just had a system where you used the camera, then sent it back to the company to be recycled. It isn't the most efficient system, especially by modern standards. You're looking at approximately a week's wait to see what you shot, so that's no wonder most people rely on smartphone cameras these days. Yeah, seriously, do me a favor, take a picture, don't check on it for a week. And then eventually, an hour. We got down to hour photos. 15. VHS Rewinders. There was a time where you could be fined for forgetting to do something important with your movie rental. Namely, rewind the tape. Be kind, rewind. Yes, we are in the era of Blockbuster Video. chunky VHS boxes and praying your video cassette recorder didn't chew up the cassettes, which were pretty expensive to replace. Luckily, there was a solution to your rewinding problem. A special gadget called a VHS rewinding machine took care of the job for you. Why not just rewind using the VCR? Well, that could potentially damage the tape and wear out your player in the long run, so a separate machine was needed. If you weren't convinced, then the fact that some of these machines were shaped like race cars might seal the deal. Never had one, I just used the VHS player. 14. Sega Game Gear. Nintendo revolutionized gameplay with the Game Boy, though Sega had a shot at challenging them with its own handheld gadget, the Sega Game Gear. Released in 1990, one of its main selling points was a color screen. Nintendo decided to go grayscale, or I guess green scale, for the Game Boy, and ultimately they won out. Now, Game Gear was cool, however, it was also bulky to handle, and needed a lot of batteries. 6 AA's, guaranteeing only a few hours of fun each time. Once Game Boy Color had been developed in the late 90s, well, Nintendo had all its bases covered for gamers. I loved my Game Gear. Oh man, I had the backup battery pack you strapped on the back and oh man. Oh, a lot of Sonic on that game system. 13. VCR. Watching movies at home was a far-off dream for most consumers in the 70s. That was, until the invention of the domestic VCR. The first model, Sony's CV2000, was actually made in the 60s, though it'd be a good few years before VCRs became more affordable and a standard feature in people's homes. VHS emerged as the most popular format, following a war with rival tape producer Betamax during the 70s and 80s. Most importantly, you could record your own movies off the TV, not to mention your favorite shows. There's still a love out there for movies on tape, however, once DVDs hit the market, it signaled the end of an era. I still have some. My bar mitzvah videos on that. Tristan, if you're listening, convert my stuff already. I've been waiting, man. 12. Car phones. Driving whilst on the go is a definite no-no, but it wasn't always this way. They used to have phones built into cars, and it was a huge deal. Car phones were used a lot between the 70s and 90s, however, it all started back in the 40s. The first phone for your vehicle was made by Motorola, which of course is still a popular brand all these years on. Car phones weren't just convenient, they were seen as status symbols. Initially, they were out of reach of regular consumers, though when technology moved on, it led to cheaper cell phones separate from the cars, plus a whole new way to cause a potential road accident, so, woo! Don't text and drive, don't talk to hands. We all have hands-free now. Come on, no excuse anymore. 11. Pocket TVs. You've heard of a Sony Walkman, right? Well, how about a Sony Watchman? This was a battery-powered TV you could fit in your pocket, featuring a 2-inch screen. Oh boy. This was one of a range of products by various companies, building on the original release of pocket TVs in the late 60s and early 70s. They used black and white CRTs, or cathode ray tube screens, which later became color LCDs or liquid crystal displays. We can watch whatever we want through our streaming on our phones, so it's actually interesting being reminded of a time when that activity existed in a whole other way. 10. Atari 2600. Ask old school gamers about classic consoles, and most of them will reply, Atari. For example, their iconic 2600 console was affordable and easy to handle. The gadget came with a straightforward controller, so you didn't have to think too hard about your gameplay. Atari released the iconic games Pong and Asteroids, and the 2600 brought that fun from the amusement arcade into people's homes. Atari upgraded its products and dominated the video game scene for years. However, what goes up must come down, or in Pong's case, side to side, and the devastating gaming crash of the 80s let rivals such as Nintendo get a slice of the pixelated pie. 9. Portable DVD players. This next gadget hasn't been entirely forgotten about, but it is still a thing of the past. The portable DVD player. You can find these players on sale for those that want them, however, they were quickly replaced by internet-enabled devices. Between 1998, when the first DVD L10 model was released by Panasonic, and the middle of the noughties, they were seen as a cool and convenient thing to have for long car journeys or private viewing. You could even plug them into your TV to use as a regular DVD player. That kind of thing defeats the object of having a portable player on the go, but hey, it was a nice feature anyway. I still have memories of watching all the X-Men movies and House on the bus to work. My portable DVD player. Mine had a screen attached. 8. Daisy wheel and dot matrix printers. Printers are widely seen as redundant these days, even though they're used for physical printing in workplaces and homes everywhere. It's a paperless society now. However, before our modern inkjet printing services, we had a couple of predecessors. Dot matrix printers from the late 20th century had a ribbon-based ink delivery system, which was rapidly pricked with little pins to form letters and numbers. Then, there were the daisy wheel printers from the latter half of the century, which are kind of a missing link between traditional machine printing and computer printing. These hammered out your text using a wheel with physical text shapes, similar to the old-fashioned printing press. 7. DAT tapes. DAT stands for Digital Audio Tape, which first became available from Sony in 1987. Previously, audio recordings were made using analog technology, the equipment for which was bulky compared to the new DAT system. The DAT tapes, which is actually kind of redundant, were small and produced crystal clear results, at least by 20th century standards. Sadly, this niche product fell victim to high prices and serious competition. Interestingly, the audio industry wasn't keen on the gadget at first, due to their concerns over whether it can make high-quality copies. Soon, digital recording became the norm for audio and also TV broadcasting, so they needn't have worried. Once digital recording went totally tape-free, there wasn't too much left for DAT to do except go out of style. 6. Pagers. Starting in the mid-20th century, people would hear high-pitched sounds coming from the pockets of professional types, like doctors. This was the sound of their pager, or beeper. In an age before cell phone notifications, these were essential gadgets to stay in the loop for work and emergencies. Pagers came on the scene through Motorola in 1959, who gave the devices their name. Motorola's product was based on a patent from 10 years earlier by Al Gross, an engineer who also invented the walkie-talkie. Originally, pagers just displayed a number to call back. The later ones, called alphanumeric pagers, were more like text messaging services. You might still hear them being used today, but pagers and beepers are very much yesterday's tech, and forgotten about by a lot of people. 5. Overhead projectors. School days were made a little more exciting by the use of overhead projectors. True, they were usually showing boring diagrams and stuff, but the act of turning the lights off in the classroom was a welcome break from staring at the black or whiteboard. The concept of an overhead projector first became known about in 1853 thanks to Edmond Becquerel from France. He was a physicist who wowed people with his gadget, laying the groundwork for the finished product. This used light to project a large reflected image from a clear sheet onto a screen. You could also do it with an ordinary sheet of paper. The bright light would go straight through. There's not much need for overheads now that we have PowerPoint and such, however, some old schools and universities probably still use them. The sound of the fan, those markers, oh yeah. Memories. 4. Armatron. Why play with a whole robot when you can have just the arm? In fairness to Tomy, who released the Armatron robot arm toy in 1984, they wanted to create something that gave kids an insight into engineering and robotics. By using the joysticks on the ARM platform, you could control Armatron and get it to do tasks, such as making a stack of building blocks, loosening screws, and lifting small objects. The toy was a success and readily available from your local Radio Shack. I worked at Radio Shack in 2006. They produced a wireless version, really? Though sadly the Armatron is forgotten about in the modern world. I had one, I loved it. The little ball, you could, If anyone has any Armatrons they don't want, send them my way. I'll totally play with those again. 3. PDAs. Personal digital assistants, or PDAs, not public display of affections, were what people used before smartphones, as shown by examples such as the Palm Pilot. PDAs were a step up from the paper Filofax, helping busy people manage their diaries, look up contacts, and take notes. Products such as the Newton Message Pad gave the public their first taste of electronic handheld devices. These gadgets featured touchscreens, emails, and basic apps, though they became museum pieces once smartphones overtook them. For over a decade, between the 90s and the early 2000s, they paved the way for the technological revolution to come. 2. Public telephone booths. Today, the thought of sharing a phone with lots of people fills us with dread, but it's easy to forget what a lifesaver public phone booths were. The story began with a man named William Gray who lived in Connecticut in the 1880s. When his wife was sick, he needed access to a phone, and fast. To his aggravation, he had to rely on the kindness of other people to let him use their line. This led him to invent the world's first public booth, so anyone with a few coins could make a call whenever they wanted. Many of us still remember the booths and boxes. For example, in Great Britain, they were known for their bright red color. They went from taking coins to cards and other payments, but most of them are now gone thanks to personal cell phones and smartphones. But if you go to the UK Pavilion at Epcot, there's one, actually I think a couple, and then there's the one that can call the Ministry of Magic at Universal Studios in Orlando. They might have that over in LA, but I'm not sure, never been there. 1. The phone book. Can we really say that the phone book is a gadget? It doesn't have electrical components or wires sticking out of it, but it does technically do the job of one. Before search engines and company websites told you everything you wanted to know, you relied on the phone book for names, numbers, and addresses. They helped you find friends, colleagues, and people providing services. The books contained white pages for residences and yellow for business. Plus, these handy resources lasted the distance. It took until 2024 for British Telecom to retire their iconic printed phone book, after over a century of service. That thing outlasted most gadgets I can think of. Some places still print directories, but on the whole, they're not widely available. Now, this list of forgotten gadgets had some great twists and turns, which makes me think of a question. Which surprising figure co-created the communication technology called frequency hopping with George Antheil, leading to the invention of Wi-Fi? Was it A, author Ian Fleming, B, boxer Jake LaMotta, C, actor and singer Sammy Davis Jr., or D, movie actress Hedy Lamarr? Let us know your answers in the comments below. Now, technology is an exciting thing, but sometimes we don't get the wow factor we're looking for. Check out my video on 25 times tech promised big and gave us garbage right here. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you soon for another list. And if you had any of these, or still do, let me know in the comments below. Let's get that conversation going. I'll be there.